Have you ever stopped to think about how different writing systems can be? Most of us are used to an alphabet, where letters stand for sounds. But Chinese is completely different. It's one of the world's oldest, and it's built on characters that capture whole ideas, not just sounds. And that right there is why it's the only ancient script that's been in constant use for over 3,000 years, all the way to today. It's an incredible story of survival.
All right, so here's where we're headed. We're going to start with the myth, a fantastic story about a four-eyed inventor. Then we'll get into the real dirt, the archaeology of it all, literally carved in bone. We'll see how the script evolved, how it spread across Asia, and how it survived a massive internal debate. And finally, we'll see how this ancient script is making it in the digital world.
You know, every great story needs a killer origin. And for Chinese characters, it all starts with a legend. Not with a dusty historical fact, but with this amazing myth about a man who could literally see the secret patterns of the universe.
I mean, really think about that for a second. How do you invent writing from absolutely nothing? There's no alphabet to borrow, no other script to get ideas from. You have to somehow create a system to capture everything, from the sun in the sky to the thoughts in your head for the very first time. Well, that was the puzzle facing China's legendary Yellow Emperor. So, the story goes that the Yellow Emperor had managed to unify this huge territory, but he had a big problem. How do you govern it? His system for keeping records was tying knots in ropes. Yeah. As you can imagine, it was clunky, it was inefficient, and it just wasn't cutting it for running an empire. He needed a major upgrade.
So what does he do? He turns to his court historian, a guy named Kangxi, and gives him this massive job. Now, according to the legend, Kangxi wasn't just some guy. He was born with 4 eyes. And this wasn't seen as a freak thing. It was a symbol that he had these extraordinary, almost supernatural powers of observation. He could see the world in a way no one else could.
So Kangxi goes out into nature, and he just looks. He saw that everything had its own unique signature. The footprint of a bird was totally different from a deer's. The patterns on a turtle shell, the arc of the sun, the shape of a mountain. He realized he could create a unique mark for each and everything, capturing its very essence in a single symbol.
And get this, the legend says that when Kangxi revealed his new writing system, the entire cosmos reacted. The heavens rained grain, and the gods cheered. But the ghosts and demons, they cried in terror. Why? Because they knew that with writing, humans could now record secrets, share complex ideas, and could no longer be so easily fooled. Writing was a total game changer.
It's a fantastic story, right? But while Kangxi is an amazing cultural hero, archaeologists have uncovered a very different origin story. One that wasn't passed down in myths, but was literally carved in bone.
This, right here, this is where the story gets real. This is a piece of an oracle bone, and it dates all the way back to around 1250 BCE. This is it, the earliest hard evidence of Chinese writing we've ever found. These little fragments are our first real tangible connection to the script's ancient past.
The script they found on these bones has a name, Jiagu Wen, and it literally just means shell and bone writing. This is the great-great-great-grandfather of modern Chinese characters, and what's wild is that it's already a surprisingly complex and mature writing system.
So what were they writing about? Not epic poems or laws. Nope. They were using them to talk to their ancestors. A Shang king would ask a question like, will we win the upcoming battle? Or, is the harvest going to be good this year? They'd carve the question onto a turtle shell or a bone, heat it until it cracked, and then a diviner would read the cracks to get the answer. It was like a spiritual hotline to the afterlife.
And here's the thing that blows my mind. This wasn't some primitive system with just a few dozen symbols. Scholars have found at least 4,000 unique characters on these oracle bones. Sure, we can't read all of them today, but many are the direct ancestors of modern characters. It proves this system was already incredibly sophisticated over 3,000 years ago.
But of course, the script didn't just stay the same. It's a living thing, and it changed and adapted over thousands of years. And the way it looks, its very shape, tells a story about new technologies and new ideas. So let's trace that visual journey.
You can really see how the script's look was shaped by the tools they used. Oracle bone script is all sharp and angular because it was carved with a knife. Then, when they started casting characters in bronze, the lines naturally got thicker and rounder. And later, with the invention of the brush and paper, boom, the forms get all fluid and graceful, flowing into what we now recognize as the standard or regular script.
And the logic behind the characters themselves is just beautiful. Take this for example. Here's the character for tree, which kind of looks like a little tree. Now, if you put two trees together, you get woods. Simple enough, right? But then if you put three together, you get a dense forest. It's like a visual language, building complex ideas out of simple pictographic blocks.
Now, here's one of the script's superpowers. Because the characters represent meaning and not just sound, they could travel. This incredible feature allowed the script to cross linguistic borders and pretty much unite East Asia and writing, even when they couldn't understand each other's spoken languages. For centuries, if you were an educated person in Japan, Korea, or Vietnam, you wrote in classical Chinese. As you can see here, they all adopted the characters, just giving them their own names. They might pronounce the character for mountain completely differently, but when they wrote it down, it was the same symbol with the same meaning. It created this huge shared literary culture.
But they didn't just copy and paste, they innovated. To better fit their own unique languages, Korea invented its own brilliant alphabet, Hangul, in the 15th century. And Japan got creative too, taking some of the complex Chinese characters and simplifying them way down to create their own phonetic scripts, which they use alongside the Chinese characters today.
Okay, let's jump forward to the 20th century. After thousands of years of evolution, the script faced its biggest internal battle yet. A debate so intense it would literally split the written language in two.
Wow. Just listen to that quote from one of China's most famous modern writers. "If Chinese characters are not destroyed, then China will die." That's how high the stakes felt. For many intellectuals at the time, the traditional script, with all its complex strokes, felt like a relic, holding the country back from modernizing and educating the masses. So in the 1950s, the government in mainland China decided to act. They launched a massive reform to simplify the writing system. The goals were pretty clear. Make it way easier and faster for hundreds of millions of people to learn to read and write, reduce the number of strokes, and generally help the country modernize. So what does this simplification actually look like? Well, take the character for learn. You can see right away how many strokes were removed, making it much quicker to write by hand.
Here's another really common one, the character for door. The traditional form is pretty intricate, but the simplified version is much more abstract and, well, simple.
And how about the majestic character for dragon? The change is dramatic. This reform created a split that exists to this day. Mainland China and Singapore use simplified characters, while Taiwan, Hong Kong, and many overseas Chinese communities stick with the traditional forms.
But this was, and still is, a huge debate. Critics argued that when you cut out strokes, you also cut out layers of history and meaning. The most famous example is the character for love. The traditional form has the character for heart right in the middle. But in the simplified version, the heart is gone. For many, that felt like a profound cultural loss, severing a link to the character's deeper meaning.
And that brings us right up to the present. In a world dominated by keyboards designed for 26 letters, how on earth does a script with tens of thousands of unique characters even survive, let alone thrive? For a long time, this was a massive hurdle. I mean, think about a typewriter, or the first computer keyboards. They were all built for small, manageable alphabets. It really did seem like Chinese characters might be an evolutionary dead end in the new digital age, just too complex to work with modern tech. But then, an ingenious solution came along that brings our entire story full circle. It's an input method named, you guessed it, kanji. It's a clever system that breaks down every single character into a set of basic shapes. This allows anyone to build even the most complex character using a standard keyboard. The mythical inventor of writing lends his name to its digital salvation. It's perfect. So, from turtle shells to bronze pots, from the brush to the keyboard, Chinese characters have always found a way to adapt and survive. The system is incredibly resilient. But now, as technology shifts again towards voice assistants and AI that can write for us, we're left with one final question. After 3,000 years, what does the next chapter hold for this ancient, beautiful script?